Let's make a 1930s house dress. My name is Caitlin, and on this channel we copy originals and make reproduction clothing. So I have here some reproduction 1930s feed sackcloth, although it's not, because feed sackcloth does not resemble modern quilting cotton. But that's what it's kind of sold as. But it's a appropriate pattern, but it's an appropriate fabric, and I actually have quite a bit of it. That's nice. Cool. I'm going to have extra. And then I have a pattern here that's from a friend who happened to get her hands on an original 1930s pattern that was literally traced onto newsprint, which is how it's easily able to be dated. And so she sent it to me, and we're gonna make it up. So what it consists of: it has a sleeve, has a front, has a back, and a side back. I think it needs a collar, just based on images that I'm seeing. So we're going to draft that ourselves, and then a belt of some kind, which it's a tie. It's one of those like Hooverette dresses. That's like a wrap dress. So let's go ahead and get cutting. Alright, we're going to use my great grandmother's 1907 for this. So the front has a little bit of a dart cut out, and the skirt is bigger than the bodice by like a couple of inches, like 2 inches. So I'm going to gather this in and then do that little dart. Camera too much? So it looks like that. It's a little dark, and then it gives a little bit more room in the hips, which is nice. There's 5 pieces. There's a back, a side back, and a front. Of course, there's 2 side backs and 2 fronts, so it ends up being 5 pieces. I'm going to do this with a mantua maker's hem, just so it'll finish the edges with one seam. So the seam ends up looking like this. So it kind of looks like I call it a cross between a felled seam and a French seam. It's not really, but it reminds me of that. So it looks like a regular seam from the outside. On the inside it's a little bit thick, but it's folded over like a French seam, but I only have to do it once. I'm going to do all of the seams this way. But here, while we're here, I'll just show you how I pin this. So you take your seam, you fold it over once, you fold it over twice, and you sew right on that very edge. So it's a finished seam. There's no raw edges, but you only had to sew the seam once. I still haven't cut the ruffle at the neckline. I figure what I need to do is, because it fits very well at the neckline itself and then it's curved out. So what I definitely need to do is to get a good neckline measurement, which I'm not going to get until I have it sewn together. So I need to do that first, and then I can cut a neckline. This is the front to the side back now. Alright, these are the sleeves. For the cuffs, I've decided to do just a plain cuff. Okay, actually, I want it right sides together again. I want it inside out for this. I'm doing a 2-layer cuff just so I don't have to do any hemming. And I'm probably going to leave this seam raw as well. I could fold this over and do the mantua maker seam. I have seen that done in originals, But I've also seen it left raw because it's in the inside. And once you starch it enough, you'll never be able to get in there to actually see that it's raw. To watch where that seam is, because I'm going to probably want to do that part by hand, as I have been doing. Alright, our next step is we're going to put a facing into this thing. And that facing ideally should be the same as your fashion fabric, but I can't figure out where I put the extra of this fashion fabric, and I kind of want to save that for kids' clothes anyway, so I'm just going to use white and hope for the best. I think I'm also going to cut the tie of white, or the ties. I think that's going to make it all kind of tie in together. I stitched down the facing on the other side. I was going to do it by hand, but then I realized this print is so busy you'll never see it, so I left it that way, and I'm hemming it. So I did a really deep hem because this is actually for a very tall lady. So I did like basically a 4-inch hem. It's 3 inches here, and I have an inch underneath here. So it's like a 4-inch hem. I think it's just sleeves, belt, and collar. So I might as well go ahead and cut this collar. Figure out what I'm going to do with that. I guess I'll cut the ties at the same time, because I guess I might as well. Alright, this is the tie. That's gonna get turned right side out. And for the collar, so I just laid this down on white fabric. I traced the outline of the neckline. I measured 3 inches over, and I measured all the way 3 inches down, and I graduated at the very bottom because I see a lot of the collars that are graduated to be smaller towards the waist. And that's how I came up with the collar pattern. I'm doing this the same way we did the cuffs. Also, I'm seeing a lot of Hooverette dresses that have pockets, but I still can't find the original fabric, so I think we're going to leave off the pockets and I can add them later when I find the fabric, because I have no idea where I set that. Ties, which I kind of just pleated in nicely to make it fit a little bit better. I'm just going to stitch it right down. Okay. I've already cut a giant hole on one side, or in the same side, and I'm going to bind that with buttonhole twist. And now, that way this end can go through here to tighten it. Well, I thought I got putting the sleeves in on camera. Apparently I did not, but they're in now. I don't know. I guess I didn't press record even though I thought I did. Anyway, they're in now. So I guess we're done. So that goes down. I did top stitch that, but they look nice. And then my buttonhole is right there. So yeah, I guess we're ready to try it on, see what it looks like on. Here it is. So I think it's actually really cute. I think this is adorable. It does go a little bit lower than I would like, so I did put a brooch here. I don't know if that's really appropriate for like a house dress type thing, but it does hold it together, so that's helpful. Other than that, I think it turned out really cute. I mean, I like the ways the ties work, so it's actually adjustable, which is nice. I'm not a fan of how tight the skirt is. I mean, that's just the 30s look though, is having kind of a tighter fitted skirt. I prefer really full rounded skirts, like the 50s. So that's just personal preference, but I still think it turned out fine. I think the trim just is perfect. I kind of did want a ruffle one. I didn't feel like doing all that math or doing all that hemming, so this was perfect. And it really sets off with the sleeves and this being like the same thing. I think that looks great. Again, pockets are going to need to happen as soon as I have the fabric, which I know is somewhere. And I don't need very much. I just need like 2 little bits like that big. It's not going to... It's not a lot of fabric. And I think I'm going to do a band of white across the top. First off, because it'll be easier to find my pockets with this busy print, and also just because it'll match and look pretty. So yeah, I'm actually way more thrilled with this than I thought I would be. I mean, I don't know when I'm actually going to use it. I actually wanted to make this last year. Mariah gave me the pattern last year. I was going to make a dress for a Model A Club meetup because I was going to dress out. And then I really started thinking about it, and I actually got the fabric out. I was going to start to cut. I printed out the pattern. I had everything together, and then I thought, this is a house dress. We wouldn't be going driving in a house dress. So I ended up making the 1935 blue one with like the ruffle across. Yeah, I'll put a link to it. So we ended up doing that one instead. And I just kept saying, I'm going to get to this because I want to try it out. It's fun. It's from an original pattern. That's basically my size. I wonder if I probably could have used a couple inches in the hips, but yeah, I think it overall is very close to my size, and so I was like, I really want to try it. Fast forward 8 months later, and here we are actually getting it done. It's been sitting just like off to the side, just taunting me for 8 months. So we finally got it done, which is super helpful. It just ended up being a whole thing with videos, and I was like, oh, I want to start doing Red Cross stuff, and I actually do that at events, so that took precedence for a while, and I was like, oh, I don't really have good underwear for this time period, so I really probably should be doing that. So I just kept getting pushed and pushed and pushed, and so finally we got to get it done. So that's actually very helpful. It's not in my to-do project list anymore. So it looks like a Hooverette to me, so I think we did an okay job. Really easy to put together. I mean, super simple. And there's so many Hooverette patterns out there. So even if you can't get this exact pattern, like there's patterns everywhere. And some of them have like a lot of ruffled details on the bottom, so they're like a little bit fancier. But if you want just like a basic Hooverette, I'll link some of the patterns down below that I know are from good patterners who use original patterns. They just grade them up. I'll link a couple of them for. I think there's 2 or 3 I would recommend to start with. So yeah, I'm happy with that. I think it's a good length on me. It's cute. I'm actually liking this print also a lot more than I thought I would, so that's also a plus. But I think that's just about it. If you've enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe to the channel, click that little bell notification so you're notified anytime I upload a new video. And as always, have a fantastic week, and I'll see you back here in the next video.